So guys, in today's episode, we're going to see how the village is turning into a fortress, how the weapons are being tested, and how a hidden dungeon could completely flip the story. So the question is, will Van be able to protect everyone with his powers, or even bigger problems on the way? So without wasting any time, let's dive right into the video. He transforms them, and now using those same blocks, he builds a pretty large house for himself. Seeing this, everyone is left stunned. Tilby says in amazement, "Master, what is this? You built such a huge house so easily and so quickly." Hearing this, Kamseen also says that Van's production magic is far better than elemental magic, and this skill suits him perfectly for governing a territory. Van agrees and says, "Yeah, you're right. I admit this is a pretty interesting skill. But still, offensive magic is the best when it comes to protecting people. People would feel much more secure if I had some offensive magic." Till and Kamseen immediately say that it's not like that. Kamseen adds that he would much rather live in Van's town than in his father's. Meanwhile, Espada also tells Van that yes, he's right. His magic might not be very useful in war or during battles. But even so, people need a lord who can improve their lives, and in that regard, Van is far ahead of everyone else. DB then says that Espada is right. "I still can't believe it, Van. You built an entire house." Ortho also adds that Lord Van's power is far greater than that of a normal production magic user. Van replies modestly, saying it's not that much. "If you just bring me wood, I can build houses for all of you." Hearing this, a fight breaks out between DB and Ortho. They start arguing that they'll collect the wood first and their house should be built first. Seeing all this, Rhonda asks Van, "If we bring wood, will you build houses for all of us too?" Everyone else also starts complaining, saying their houses have become very old and are starting to fall apart. Hearing all this, Van gets nervous. He says that if he builds houses for everyone, he'll get extremely tired. But then he thinks it's fine. Their houses aren't in very good condition anyway. So he says, "All right, let's start renovating the lives of the people of this village." He tells them that together, they'll build houses for everyone. Hearing this, everyone gets really excited and starts thanking Van. Van also thinks to himself that if he can make everyone happy by using his production magic, then he will use it, no matter how tired he gets. In the next scene, we see Van using his power to renovate all the broken and damaged houses, turning them into something truly amazing and strong. He builds so many houses at once that everyone is left shocked. They say that Lord Van's standard capacity is incredibly impressive. Van then explains to them that he actually used a grid plan. As a fundamental unit, he used a 4-home block. He says he made all the houses the same so that no one would feel jealous after looking at someone else's house. For now, wooden houses are enough, but once he gets stone, he'll build even better houses for everyone. As a way of thanking him, everyone starts offering Van whatever leftover food they have, since they don't have much anyway. In the next scene, we see Van also build a simple bathroom for everyone. All the girls become really happy seeing this. Van thinks that he actually built it for himself, but it's fine. If they want to use it, they can. He explains that he used a simple design for the bathroom. Florial uses her water magic to fill the tub, while Kamseen uses charcoal and fire to heat the water. Everyone starts taking turns bathing. Then Till says to Van, "Let's all bathe together." Florial agrees and says it's a good idea and that she'll join too. Van gets embarrassed and says, "No, I've grown up. I can't bathe with you all." They agree and leave Van behind, going to bathe on their own. Florial says she can't believe Van is letting people like them enjoy such a luxury. Till replies, "Yeah, that's just how Van is." Florial adds that he surprises her every time. Even though he's so young, he's very kind and a truly amazing noble. Hearing this, Till gets really happy and says, "Wait, then let me tell you more about Van," and continues talking about him. In the next scene, Van also comes to bathe and is enjoying himself. Then he notices Kamseen, who has come to bathe as well. Van says, "You've really built muscles. That's amazing. You actually have muscles. But yeah, you've worked really hard for it." Kamseen happily replies that he's giving his best, so he can become like D and protect Van. Van says, "No, don't become like D. He's always sticking to me." Just then, D arrives there with his companions and asks Van, "Did you call me?" He says they also came to bathe. Van replies, "All right then, I'll be leaving." As Van is about to go, D stops him and says, "No, bathing together like this while naked will strengthen our friendship," and he forcefully makes Van stay right there. And now he starts practicing his swordsmanship right there as well. After all of this, Van gets really tired and comes back to his room, where he falls asleep on his soft bed. After that, we're shown the next day's scene, where everyone has finally completed the trench together. But now it needs to be filled with water, so it can turn into a moat. Van says that they need water not only for drinking, but also for bathing, so they should create a water source. After this, they reach a river, where Spada uses his power to create a very long trench. However, it still isn't connected to the village. Because of this, D, Kamseen, and the others have to dig the remaining part by hand. Van also helps them, using his power to strengthen the bottom and sides of the trench. But then he notices that D is laughing a lot while digging. Seeing this, Van starts wondering what's so funny about this and how D even has so much energy. That's when Espada says that D is already 40 years old, but he's still very young. Till also says that if you look at it, the distance between the village and the river is quite large, so this is a full-on construction project. Van replies that yes, it's necessary. People can't live without water. Van thinks to himself that once this one shortage is solved, merchants will be able to enter the village easily. They need to do all this so that in the future, he can live his life peacefully. Van feels that it will still take about a week to complete this project. But by evening itself, they've already reached near the village. Seeing this, Van gets shocked and says that they arrived much earlier than expected. D is still digging, so they tell him to stop. D replies, "Why stop? If we keep going, we'll reach the village in just a few hours." Van says, "You might be able to keep digging, but look at everyone else's condition. They're completely exhausted." Hearing this, D says, "All right, if that's the case, I'll stop." Seeing this, Van gets surprised once again. He thinks about how D has so much stamina. If he hadn't stopped him, D would have kept digging nonstop, and he feels like Espada wouldn't have stopped either. Both of them are seriously crazy. After this, we're shown the next day's scene, where the trench is finally completed. Now all that's left is to connect the water flow. Van starts thanking everyone for working so hard, and then tells Spada to release the water. Spada opens the gate, and water starts flowing in. Seeing this, everyone becomes really happy because their hard work has paid off. The water flows very smoothly, and before they know it, it reaches the village and fills the entire trench, turning it into a proper moat. Van says that the water is filled now, but if there's too much rain, this place could flood. Maybe he should build a lake behind the village. Hearing this, Espada says that it's a really good idea. They can use that lake as a reservoir, and if there's ever a water shortage, they can take water from there. Van agrees and says they should do that. After that, they prepare that same lake as a reservoir. This way, the water won't get dirty every day. Seeing this, the villagers become very happy because their village has seen a major improvement. Rhonda also thanks Van and says that because of him, they won't have to go so far to bring water anymore. Van replies that it's nothing and there's no need to thank him for it. Van also thinks to himself that he's really happy that there's now access to water here, and life for the villagers will become much easier. In the next scene, we're shown a carriage traveling somewhere at night. Inside it, there's a lady sitting along with a small girl. The girl's name is Arte, and she looks quite worried. Seeing this, the lady gently comforts her. We find out that the lady's name is Panamera. She tells Arte that the village they're going to is a bit far, so she should rest. Arte agrees. After this, we're shown Van again, who uses his production magic to build a tower in front of the wall. He uses stone to build it. After seeing this adventurer, we're actually going to call him the chubby guy. It's not like I'm body-shaming him or anything. I just can't remember this guy's name. Anyway, the chubby guy now starts saying that their tower is finally standing strong. So even if the goons attack again, there's nothing to be afraid of. Van replies, "Yeah, but we still need to add more safety." After saying that, he installs some arrows there that look like cannons, which can attack enemies from a distance. On top of that, Van also installs a shield, so whoever uses it will stay protected from enemy attacks. Seeing this, Till says, "You can basically make everything using your production magic, right?" Van replies, "Yeah, maybe." He then says that even though this village is small, it has now turned into a fortress city. Hearing this, the others also say that even if enemies come to attack, they'll never be able to defeat them. D then says to Van, "If your father, Jalpa, knew you had powers like this, he would never have sent you to a place like this. He would have made you the head of something important." Espada replies, "Don't say things like that. A head is judged by their fighting abilities, and Van doesn't have that." D responds, "Can't you see it for yourself? Van's power goes far beyond fighting. In my opinion, out of all of us, Van is the most powerful." Espada then says, "Yes, I agree that Van's power is best for protection. But with this power, you can't conquer other lands." Seeing them argue like this, Van steps in to calm them down and says, "Arguing like this won't achieve anything. Whatever strength we have, we'll have to use all of it to fight our enemies." Hearing this, D gets really impressed and laughs, saying, "Yeah, you're right. Fighting like this won't lead anywhere." After hearing all this, Van starts feeling hungry. In the next scene, we see Till preparing some really tasty food for him. Till says, "We didn't have many ingredients, so I made this using whatever we had." Van asks, "Are we short on food?" Espada replies yes, and explains that for a village, defense is important, but what matters even more is how much the village earns. And it seems this village doesn't have any merchant connections who visit regularly every month. Van says, but now I can handle all the village houses by myself, and the crops grown in the village are enough to keep us full. Espada agrees, but says, that's true, but we don't have expensive ingredients, like those sweet-baked desserts you like. Hearing this, Van is completely shocked and says, if that's the case, then we'll have to do something so this village can earn money. We need to make something we can sell. Does anyone have an idea? Camsine suggests, the wooden blocks you make would sell really well. Van rejects the idea and says, no, only I can work on those. Till suggests, then why don't we hunt monsters? Van rejects that idea too and says, Ortho's group already hunts monsters. Espada says that means they'll have to find something completely different. So that means we'll have to find something completely different and something really tough. Van also starts thinking that no matter what, he has to make something that this village can sell. In the next scene, we see the chubby guy who tells Van that his servants really like him. He says, I suggested that the boys test their weapons, but they refused. They said they don't want to damage the gifts you gave them. Hearing this, Van tells them, I'm really happy that you're taking such good care of them. But if you don't learn how to use these weapons, you won't be able to protect anyone. The chubby guy then says, don't worry. You can use your weapons on my shield. He explains that it's an orc knight's shield. The shield is made from an orc's waist and is extremely strong. No one can break it. Camsine then lightly places his sword on the shield just to test it. He doesn't apply even a little bit of force. Seeing this, the chubby guy starts laughing and says, nothing will happen if you do it like that. Hit it a little harder. But the moment he looks down, he sees that his shield has already split into 2 pieces. That means Camsine's sword is incredibly powerful. Seeing this, the chubby guy starts crying and says, my shield broke. I just had it made. Ben says, I'm honestly really surprised too. I made this sword out of wood, and it cut so cleanly. Hearing this, the chubby guy becomes even more shocked and says, what? Just with a wooden sword? Seeing him so sad, Van uses his power to repair the shield again. Because of this, the chubby guy becomes really happy. But then, hearing all the noise, Ortho arrives there and shows Van a bunch of ores, asking, can you buy these? He explains that he found all these ores deep inside the forest, up in the mountains, where there are very powerful monsters. That means if you go there, you'll find a lot of rare ores. I brought iron, copper, silver, a little bit of gold, and look, even mithril, or... Hearing all this, Van is completely shocked and says, if all of this was inside the forest. So Van asks, then why hasn't anyone mined this until now? Ortho replies that maybe it's a place where hardly anyone goes, and it's also very difficult to reach. And then says, oh, is that so? Can I use the iron ore? Ortho says yes, and after that, Van uses his production magic again and turns that iron ore back into solid blocks. Seeing this, the chubby guy asks, can you use this to make a sword? Van replies, all right, my actions did break your shield, so fair enough. Hearing this, the chubby guy becomes really happy. He says, okay then, make 1 small sword and 1 big sword for me. Van agrees and starts doing exactly that. This is the first time Van is making something using iron. He focuses deeply and creates an amazing small sword, which the chubby guy really likes. Then Van concentrates even more and makes a large sword as well, and that also turns out incredible. Seeing this, Ortho and the other adventurers come over and ask Van, please make sword for us too. Van ends up agreeing to their request as well. Just then, Chloriel comes there, looks at the weapons, and says, in my opinion, these will sell for a very high price. Van asks, is that really true? Then how much would a weapon made of mithril sell for? Espada, seeing the mithril, says, mithril is extremely rare. You don't find it in places like this. There's probably a dungeon nearby. The chubby guy agrees and says, yeah, that could be possible. Not many people have gone to that area, so there might be a dungeon there. Hearing this, Espada tells Van, if we explore that dungeon, meaning if we actually find one, our situation will improve drastically. Because a lot of people will come to our village just to see that dungeon. Van agrees and says, yeah, right. If we discover a dungeon, our village will become very important. Espada then explains, that's because dungeons are extremely valuable. You can even find national treasures inside them. When a guild finds out that a new dungeon has been discovered, they open a branch in the nearby town or village. Hearing this, Van becomes sad and says, but our village doesn't have the resources needed to welcome a guild. Espada replies, you're right. If a dungeon is found, a lot of adventurers, merchants, and many other people will come. But this village lacks facilities, food supply, and infrastructure. Van then says, yeah, and taking advantage of the situation, neighboring nations could also attack us. Like the Fednado Count could attack us to seize the dungeon. Ortho says, that means we should keep it a secret that we're even looking for a dungeon. Chloriel adds, if people find out there's a dungeon here, they won't send a chivalric order. Van agrees and says, "You're right. And if they find out how valuable this place is, they'll remove me from this village and send me somewhere else." Cloriel then says, "That means first, you need to help this village grow and produce real results. Only after that should we go and look for the dungeon. That way, the Fatio house will, so that the Fatio house won't be able to intervene." Ortho also says that whenever they go out to gather resources, they'll avoid the area around the dungeon. His companions agree to this as well. Seeing this, Van feels happy. He thinks that if these adventurers wanted to, they could have directly reported the dungeon and made a profit, but they chose not to. For that, he thanks all of them. In the next scene, Van and Tor are doing an inspection and see that none of the houses need renovation anymore. Till then asks him, "Aren't you tired yet? I've seen you making something non-stop the entire day." Just then, a man comes running and tells everyone that there's bad news. Armored lizards are attacking. They're coming from the main road, so everyone should quickly get inside the walls. After everyone gets inside, Van orders them to shut the gate immediately. They rush and close the gate, leaving the lizards outside. Even then, everyone is still very scared. Seeing this, Van draws everyone's attention to himself. He says, "I know all of you are afraid of fighting, and during battle, you could get injured too. But the lives of everyone in this village depend on this important battle. I will fight for the people of this village, but I can't do this alone. I need all of your strength as well. Please join me and lend me your power. We all have to come together and protect this village." All right, everyone. That wraps up today's episode. I hope you had a great time watching it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications. I'll catch you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye.